Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of A Dragon Ball Conversation. So joining me today is somebody I actually did a very similar conversation with not that long ago on his channel. It kind of gave me inspiration to do this one because it just made me think, what if this was a what if? So joining me to discuss this, as he's made his presence known, is the one and only Mr. Speculator, Qaaman. How's it going, buddy?
Alrighty, guys, it is Qaaman here today, and it is an honor to be on your channel, Mr. MasakoX. I've been watching you for years.
Well, thank you very much, man. It was an honor to be on your channel, too, because I kind of just stumbled into doing the what ifs, and then, you're there, pretty much the king of what ifs, the what if lord. So, and I just coming in like, just stamping on your territory, and I was just like, oh, okay. I just did a couple of what ifs, and it was just like, oh, okay, all right, but we'll get into that later. So, Mr. Qaaman, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, it's funny because I originally started off my YouTube channel as a Yu-Gi-Oh channel when I was back in high school, and one random day I just got the idea to start talking about Dragon Ball videos, and I did a video called What If Future Gohan Was Stronger? Well, it wasn't what if, but why wasn't Future Gohan stronger? And from there on out, I just started making Dragon Ball videos left and right, and one thing led to another, and I just really started enjoying talking about Dragon Ball, and that's when I started to do what ifs consistently. And I remember one of my earliest what ifs was what if Goku never got the heart virus and how that would change the whole Dragon Ball series. And then I just started getting into it, and people liked it, and I started doing more.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's a good what if in itself. So, good way to start. Start as you mean to carry on. So, nice. Thank you very much, sir. So, if you couldn't gather already what the topic was today, it is, what if this was a what if? So, basically, Dragon Ball what ifs. I love to write stories. So, this is a great chance to write a story, yet not have to worry about coming up with characters. The characters are already there. We'll talk about, the what if topic with yourself, Qaaman. About your videos in particular, so your own style. So we'll do that first. Then we'll get into how we both got into what ifs. I mean, we briefly touched on that just now, but we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. What's been the best what if we've either done or seen? And does Toriyama embrace the what if style of writing? So are we just emulating the great Akira Toriyama himself in what we do? And also, we'll touch on some predictions for the universe survival arc based on how we would see it. So, if something that we've seen in the early universe survival arc has piqued our interest, we'll see, well, okay, let's see what we'll do if we run with it. So, it's a bit of speculation. Live what if musing right here.
All right.
Yeah, so we'll go to the first topic, and that is about your videos, Qaaman. So, there was talking about our own favorite what ifs and what got us into what ifs. How do you come up with your what ifs for your planning of a video? Say you're going to do a what if video now.
This is really interesting because I've never actually discussed with a person up until my video and your video how I actually plan out what ifs. It's a pretty in-depth process that starts with me first thinking, is this a realistic topic? So the first thing I think of is if somebody requests a topic, or if I think of it, I say, is this something that could have legitimately have happened in the Dragon Ball series had something gone another way? Then the next thing is this a what if that would have drastically have changed the series, or is it something that you can pretty much explain in like 2 seconds? So for example, a what if that defines both would be, what if Goku went Super Saiyan 3 against Fat Boo and just killed him right there on the spot? Well, that what if is pretty easy to answer because he would have killed him, he would have gone back into the afterlife, and people would have just lived a peaceful life, and Beerus probably wouldn't have come back with the whole premonition as much. And if you compare that to another what if I did, what if Krillin killed Vegeta, that one definitely has a big difference in the series because in going to Namek, all those different events would change. So that I look at how much I can extend it, and the last point I think of, would this be a positive or a negative scenario? And in the video we did, I said that the first thing I do when I think of a what if is this a positive outcome or a negative outcome? I just think immediately, does this result in a good or a bad way? And then I try to go back and think of how the character motives and all of the events of Dragon Ball would play out random or with motives to get to that ultimate conclusion. And then I also talk about some character interactions in the end by saying, how would this character interact with this character with this what if changing? For example, would Gohan still be with Videl? Would Vegeta be as much of a rival to Goku? Would Goten be born? I think about all those character interactions later on, and in a nutshell, that's kind of a brief summary of how I do my what ifs.
Wow, that's really intense stuff there, sir. I mean, it sounds like you're really passionate about it. So I'm impressed by that, workflow. For me, it's something really similar. I kind of look at a story and I just take a little bit out and I think, okay, how will the bricks lie? And so I go through the basic story, and then as I go through the story, I then think of, that might throw into a bit of a problem. How am I going to deal with that? Okay, I can either take it out, amend it a little bit, or it doesn't need to be changed. For example, with what if the DBZ movies were canon? Threading those movies into the actual lore or making our own lore. Piccolo would still be alive all the way up until the Lord Slug movie. Tien, Yamcha, and Chaozu would be dead for quite a lot longer.
Right.
And that would affect the Tree of Might. Just that means if you can get the Tree of Might to fit in it. But it's not a big loss because, Yamcha. So, but it's one of those things. You just sometimes I can go through an entire what if, and then suddenly my thought just goes to one thing, and I go, and I go back 3 paragraphs, and I go, oh no. So I have to quickly change something, and then I have to be hoping, please don't mess anything else up. You have to think really fast on your toes with these. So
right.
Yeah, but thanks so much about your style, Qaaman. So if you guys want to check out more of his what ifs, be sure to check out his channel. I'll include a link in the description, obviously, so you can just see some more of them. Mr. Qaaman, we'll start with you. What has been your favorite what if to do, or what's the best what if that you've seen?
Well, I want to give a 2-part answer for this. For me, I think the best what if I've done in terms of analysis would have to be what if Goku had killed Frieza with the Spirit Bomb. And the fact of the matter is that video is about, if I remember correctly, 17 to 20 minutes long. Like, I've never gone that in depth with a what if before, and I think that because of how much Goku killing Frieza with the Spirit Bomb instead of going Super Saiyan changes the Dragon Ball series, that's what I would say for my analysis. And in terms of the funnest topic I've ever done, it would be one of my more recent what ifs in What If Vegeta Never Became Majin Vegeta. And the catalyst for what caused that event to happen in this scenario would be the simple game of rock, paper, scissors, as we talked about in my video, because it's so crazy to think, Masako, that random rock, paper, scissors match that Goku, Gohan, and Vegeta had on Babdi's spaceship, if one other person had won that rock, paper, scissors match, that could have completely changed the entire Buu saga. Because if Gohan didn't end up fighting Dabura, and let's say he fought against Pui Pui or Yeikon and was able to defeat them, that means Goku and Vegeta would have fought against Dabura, and they would have had a higher chance of beating him, obviously, as compared to Gohan, and Vegeta wouldn't have been frustrated watching Gohan compete against Dabura, which eventually means that Vegeta probably wouldn't have gone into his Majin form, and Goku might not have shown his power off the same way he did against Yakon, let's say if he fought Pui Pui, or it would have been too late against Dabura. So all of those different things would have changed simply because of the dictation of a rock, paper, scissors match. So that, to me, was the funnest what if I've ever done.
Wow. I mean, this is the beauty of what ifs. Just one little thing can change so much with with what goes on. One of my favorites I saw was Geekdom's one of what if Nappa survived. Yeah, and how he would make it all the way to Namek. And I thought, that was really cool. But I'll leave a link to that what if as well, because it's really, really interesting. But the best one that I've done was the what if Kid Goku became the Super Saiyan in Dragon Ball. What happened in those episodes would have easily made Goku go Super Saiyan had Toriyama known about that at the time of Dragon Ball. It was pure raw emotion. Krillin died, some real similarity right there. I just wrote into it that he turned Super Saiyan. And ultimately, it would throw things completely out of whack in the rest of Dragon Ball and for early Z. It would start to realign itself a little bit more towards the end of the Frieza saga. Goku toasts third form Frieza easily because he just gets bored. Because it's like, oh no, wait, I have more transformations. Really? This is getting boring now. Bye. Goku is not a very patient person. It's like, oh really? What does this transform you into? A white kettle pot? Or a white good? Because you're no good. And odds are I'm probably going to do a part 3 of that because people have now said, well, you know, your thing about having King Kai come down and teaching Goku everything like that just sounds a bit too easy. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's a fair point. So I'll do a what if to the what if.
A what if to the what if. I mean, I just think that it's really interesting though, Masako, because like, I'd never conceived of Goku being able to go Super Saiyan that early, but in theory, I would have to say that off the cuff, it would be a positive scenario because, I mean, if he could multiply his power level that much that early, I mean, Raditz probably would have been toast considering if Goku's power is 300 and he goes times 50, I mean, he could have dealt with Vegeta and Nappa no problem and he probably would have never died.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it went in my things. I had it that he went Super Saiyan in front of Raditz when he tried to kidnap Gohan. Raditz was terrified, going, oh my god, it's the legendary Super Saiyan. And Vegeta and Nappa heard this, and Vegeta's going, really? I want to try my mettle against this Super Saiyan. Ah, yeah, Vegeta. Totally. Little bit of Brian Drummond there mixing in with TFS Nappa. They would have come to fight Goku, because they'd be curious to see what this legendary Super Saiyan was all about. Speaking of writing, if you could go back, is there a scenario, a what if, that you'd want to do over again, based on what you know now?
To tell you the truth, Masako, I would probably redo most of my what ifs, but not in terms of the analysis, but more so because when I did a lot of the what ifs, you know, back then in like 2013 and 14 and even 15, I did a lot of those what ifs before Super came out. And because Super is an ongoing series, I hate to say it, but Super kind of hurt my what ifs because I can't go as far as, well, it depends for some of them, because there's some what ifs that are a negative scenario, so the series would have just ended at, let's say, the Cell or the Buu arc or even the Saiyan arc in some of them. But for the ones that have a positive scenario that go into the future, Super kind of conflicts with that. So all of those I would do because of Super, and because at the same time I feel like my editing skills at 18, 19 years old wasn't very good, you know what I mean? So obviously I feel like I can make my videos look more polished today as opposed to then.
Oh, trust me, I can certainly attest to that. Yeah, you feel like you could go back and just make them a bit more polished, a bit more refined, just smooth them out a bit more. So don't worry, I totally get you with that. I'd love to just go back and do the what if Goku never met Bulma again, just to kind of just do a little bit more with that. You know, I kind of gave Bulma a really short shrift, but I don't think that bit would change, but I thought I'd do a little bit more with the bit like going into the Z part of the story. But in terms of the story, you can move on to considering that Akira Toriyama has a very distinct writing style in that he doesn't really have a style. He kind of just improvises as he goes along. Right. Would you consider Toriyama to be one of those kind of writers that embraces the principles of what if, and then adding bits and pieces along the way if it makes it convenient for them or helps the story flow? So he'll go like, oh, hey, that guy's still alive. Or, oh, yeah, I forgot about that thing. Yeah, we can use that or something like that. Because one funny story I found out, Toriyama forgot about Super Saiyan 3. He considered for the longest time what we know as Super Saiyan 3. He went in an interview he did, was like, oh, I thought that was Super Saiyan 2. And you go like, what? I just find that a hilarious anecdote, and I'll go into that more detail in a video I've got coming up later this week. It's one of those things. He takes this idea and just kind of runs with it, kind of like what we do. Would you agree to that?
Yes, I would definitely have to agree with that, and I think Dragon Ball, okay, the whole series is Dragon Ball, but I think Dragon Ball more than Z showed that a lot more, because in Dragon Ball, I feel like looking at Toriyama in Dragon Ball, he had much more of a gag humor element to his videos, and if you think about it, there's a lot of things that he kind of just did, and you could tell he's just like kind of just messing around. Like he's not, like you could tell like he's just having fun with the story. For example, when, you know, Goku goes up to Boss Rabbit and he randomly goes to the moon to send Boss Rabbit there with the Niobe power pole. Like that to me seems like something Toriyama's like, I'm just gonna make this kid go to the moon. Kind of like how we see in the Dr. Slump, which is a much more gag-oriented humor. So yes, I definitely think Toriyama's a writer who likes to go on the cuff and just create like these scenarios that could become what ifs for us.
Yeah, I think one of the morbid things that I remember from the Monster Carrot thing is that Goku says, if you've been good and you make mochi for a year, I'll bring you back to Earth.
Right.
But then Master Roshi destroys the moon.
Exactly. And then Piccolo destroys it again, so there's literally no comebacks for poor Boss Rabbit. He's gone.
Oh god, yeah, no, and I think it's one of those things that if you ask Toriyama that, he'd just go, oh, I forgot, oops. He probably did forget about Monster Carrot, even though, you know, he kind of had a really interesting power. If Toriyama hadn't forgotten about Monster Carrot, we might have had him come back or something like that, or Boo might not have had that power to turn people into food. He probably, that thing was in the back of his mind, and he might not have known the character, but he knew the property, so... you go like, oh yeah, I'll include that power in Majin Buu. Yeah, that'd be great.
Ah, so you're saying that the inspiration of turning people into carrots can translate later on, where you could turn people into candy. I can see that, but the thing that I find interesting about Toriyama is that there's also a lot of times in Dragon Ball where I feel like Toriyama, you could tell he's kind of screwing with us. And I think that's what makes these what-if scenarios so funny, because you can tell he's literally just pulling it out of nowhere. And also, like, just coming up with random character abilities. For example, when Goku was fighting against Ten Shenhan, and then Ten Shenhan, like, popped out his forearms, and then Goku, like, magically just found a way to do it, too. I think, like, all of those little things show that Toriyama is just clearly just having fun with the series.
Oh yeah, of course, with Tao Pai Pai, being able to, his ability to kill people with his tongue. He gives them a damn good licking.
I see what you mean out there.
Try imagine kissing the guy. It's the kiss of death, literally.
Oh boy.
But it's just one of those things. He just comes up with these powers or plot devices. Probably just be convenient. I mean, the Hoi Poi capsules, the capsules that we know, one of the trademark things about Dragon Ball. He did that probably so he didn't have to worry about carrying things. You could carry anything in the world in a small box.
Well, let me ask you this, though, Masako. I mean, like, the capsules were interesting. And one other thing I wanted to add is, what do you think about Toriyama randomly mixing Dragon Ball with Dr. Slump at certain points of the manga in the show? Well, especially when we talk about Dragon Ball Super now, yeah.
Oh, yes, of course, because mixing in Arale. I would imagine Penguin Village is somewhere on the map of Earth in Dragon Ball. In a way, in Super, they've actually confirmed that, as in Senbei Norimaki goes to an award ceremony and interacts with the characters from DBZ. I actually think that's perfectly fine. I love the reactions of people who had no idea what Dr. Slump was. I think there were three mixed people. One, people that didn't care. Two, that absolutely hated it. And people who loved it. I'm looking at people over at Kansenshu. Yeah. But I personally thought it was great.
Yeah, I did too.
I think Dr. Slump is really good. I mean, Dr. Slump was quite juvenile, but honestly, that doesn't bother me really. Dragon Ball, especially Z, are a little bit more grown up and more refined in what they do. They're a bit more focused and concentrated, whereas Slump was just like, I don't know, this girl's a little android and she's really freaking strong. Let's use her to help find me a woman. Yeah. And then, Angel show up. Oh, yeah, Gachan. Yeah, hi. Cha.
Little Gachans that follow her. Yeah, because the thing is, like, honestly, even if Toriyama wasn't 100% involved in that Super episode, I still think that episode felt Toriyama-esque. Like, it had a Toriyama feel to it, to the point where, like, you have Goku and Vegeta, who we've seen as Dragon Ball fans. They've gone through so much in the series, going to the hyperbolic time chamber, getting all these Zenkai boosts to power up, and they've gotten to this magical power of Super Saiyan Blue, and this random little purple-haired girl with a hat with glasses is just, like, kicking their butts left and right. I think that's just amazing to see how like you could just have a character that's just a gag, Hubert, that's just beating up everybody. And even, you know, they're kind of breaking the fourth wall by saying, yo, she's a gag character. I can't possibly deal with that. And that's kind of the things I like. Like, I like that Dragon Ball kind of stepped out of its comfort zone there.
Oh yeah, and also you could say that this is a big what if in itself. What if Dr. Slump appeared in Dragon Ball Super?
Oh man, that's a great topic.
That's a big what if, and that whole episode was just a giant what if, and that was great. But speaking of what ifs, I want to turn our attention to the current arc, the Universe Survival arc. We're pretty much at the equivalent of establishing who the main characters are going to be, the main players, especially when we get to episode 85. I want to come up with a little what if right here. So we don't have to go into detail, just using our collective experience, see if we can come up what kind of conclusion will we have for this arc. So, Mr. Qaaman, let's start off with you. What would you say will be the ending of this arc based on what you see?
Well, I thought about this for a very long time, and I separate this into two categories. So I have what I think is going to happen to the tournament and the aftermath. In terms of the tournament itself, I think what's going to happen is because you have 80 fighters, a lot of those fighters are going to be minor, lightly drawn characters that are going to be kind of brushed aside. So they're going to have a way that they're just going to narrow the living hell out of everyone. It's going to be kind of like in Resurrection F, where like all of them were fighting against Frieza's soldiers. Like they're going to knock off a bunch of the weak fighters out of the way so that they can focus on the characters they really care about and the universes they really want to care about. And once that happens, I think that's when you're going to start seeing casualties on both sides, where Universe 7's going to start losing some characters, and then it's going to ultimately come down to a one-on-one or a two-on-two with the strongest characters that are left. So the weaker characters are going to help them get through the earlier stages. They're going to finish off with the big characters, and when Universe 7 wins, which I'm assuming, I think that they're probably going to communicate with Zeno in some way to try and have all of their universes saved. Or you could pretty much just say Zeno says, oh, guess what? We just said we're going to blow up all of your universes just so you guys tried your hardest and gave it all in this tournament. And that's it. Oh. That's what I think it's going to be. I think it would be a cheap ending, and I don't want it to end that way. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Future Trunks ending, even though I thought the arc was all right. I didn't like the ending where you just press the button, even though you could have pressed the button the first time you went to the future. But those universes give you more storytelling power to use them later on and to interact more with the characters, so I don't think they would do that.
Oh, well, that's a good thing, and I really hope that it doesn't come to that. The Zeno said, oh, we were just fooling you. Huh? Surprise. Yeah. I mean, the way I kind of see it, I would personally say that the Grand Priest does a power play, either incapacitates the Omni Kings or locks them away in some kind of chamber so they can't interfere. He takes over, calls upon his angels to destroy, universes and everything like that, and it's up to pretty much the remaining fighters to then take out the Grand Priest. I feel like the Grand Priest has got something to do with this, and I think one of my suspicions came out was when the Grand Priest was saying something about, oh, the Zenos have decided this. Oh yeah, you can't, Goku, you gotta use all your power or else we'll destroy everyone right now. And I'm like, we didn't see the Omni King say that. We never saw them say it. So that kind of made me think, someone's pushing their own agenda right here. These guys are just puppets. So I feel like it's got something to do with that, and I get the feeling that it'll be up to Whis and Vardos to uncover the truth. That'd be interesting to see.
So you're thinking something more along the lines of kind of like a war between like the angels who are trying to actually carry out what's supposed to go through with the Grand Priest, and the resistance forces are all the fighters. That could be interesting. The only question is, how many characters do you focus on and how many characters do you find expendable? Because there's no way Dragon Ball Super can accurately show the fighting abilities of 80 different people. That's way too many characters, unless they want to make this arc last like 4 years.
Unless Toriyama has been very busy.
Right.
Or he's bringing back every single character he made in his AF comic, or whatever things he's got in his mind. I think probably in every universe there'll be at least maybe 2 or 3 characters that will have some kind of development. I think this will be a good time to bring it on to the conclusion. What ifs are really fun to make, and it allows one to delve deeper into Dragon Ball than previously possible. I mean, these scenarios are more effective than in any other series due to the Toriyama style of writing. That style lends itself to posing what-if questions, as in, there's just so much lore and so much facts and stories, and in Super, there's more lore being generated every single week. And that's just fantastic. Plenty of materials to use to be able to come up with a compelling what-if. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yes, I would definitely have to say that. And to tell you the truth, Masako, I space my what-ifs out because I don't want to do them too much because, you know, obviously these are very selective topics, but I have what-if topics that are going to last me several years because I come up with different what-ifs every week. Like, I could just think of them because there's so many things that can change the series in a big way. And that's one of the reasons why Geekdom and I also came up with a joint what-if series. So I have my own what-ifs where I kind of analyze them by myself. And we have a thing where we kind of just collab and talk about some of the more open-ended what-ifs in the Dragon Ball series that don't necessarily have a specific answer or direction, but are just more general out there. Like, what if Goku never hit his head? What are some of the major things that would have changed?
Oh, well, that's really cool. And yeah, it's a good idea to pace them out. And as much as I'd like to do what-ifs all the time, I kind of realize that I don't want to keep doing it or every single day and every single week. So what I'll probably do is I'll dedicate 1 week a month to making what-ifs. So that means 2 or 3 what-ifs in a week. And I've had people give me what-ifs all the time, and I'm just like, oh, goodness. Oh, I guess you guys like these then. Oh, all right.
Yeah, they're very fun. They make you think.
But it's great validation, though, and it does make you think. It makes you think way more about Dragon Ball, more than I'd ever previously done in the past. But I think that leaves me to say thank you so much, Qaaman, for just joining me here and just talking about what-ifs.
Oh, anytime, man. If you ever need me for any videos, you know my Skype name.
Well, that's awesome, man. Thank you. And now is the time for you to plug away with your social medias.
Right, guys. So Mr. MasakoX, I'm sure, is going to leave a link to my channel in the description, but I also have a Facebook page and I also have a Twitter where I interact with a lot of my fellow supporters, and I do something interesting where every week I do a community response that I'm actually going to be having Mr. Masako joining me on for a community response in the upcoming future, where we take a poll, see what the community says, and we respond with our thoughts on the issues. So that's pretty much it.
That's a very good idea, and I look forward to doing that in the future. But what do you guys think? Do you like what-ifs? Do you have your own particular what-if that you really want answered? Just leave a comment below and we might get to it. Or other people might be able to help you with your answers for said what-if. So just keep on spreading that love, press that like button, subscribe to myself and Qaaman, and just leave comments and just generally be really cool to people. And until next time, guys, catch you later.
Adios, amigos.